because I have already heard a broker say, listen, if a carrier requests my rate, that's the last time I'm ever dealing with them. Right? Like that, you're just going straight on the blacklist. Well, carriers can exist without brokers, but brokers can't exist without carriers.
Here's the thing. It is the right of a carrier, an owner or operator, a truck driver to see the actual rate con and have that broker transparency. But here's the thing. The freight brokers always make you sign something saying that you waive that right. And because of that, in a perfect world, we already have the right to ask for that rate con. But the truth is, we never get it. And we always get blacklisted when we do. So the FMCSA makes a major public announcement saying that they want to change some of the wording from the regulations. And so the FMCSA proposes a regulatory obligation for the brokers to do a few things. One, requiring brokers to keep records in an electronic format. Two, revising the required contents of brokers' records. Three, requiring brokers to provide records upon request. And here's the major fourth one here, requiring that records be provided within 48 hours of request. It is time for the carriers, the truck drivers, the owner operators to get some power back and have broker transparency and not get blacklisted when you ask for the actual rate con. And so I need you to do a couple things here. One is I need you to go in, and I'm going to put the link down below to the regulations, the FMCSA, and comment. You have 62 days to comment, and comment if you are happy or unhappy with this regulatory new situation. And I think as a carrier, you're going to be happy that this is a step forward for broker transparency. But with that said, the brokers are going to go in here and also write that they're unhappy with this. So I'm letting you know right now, jump on that link. Number two, today's video is a collaboration between myself and the executive editor for Overdrive, Alex Lockie, and he has a survey that he put together. And the great part about this is if you do this survey, which I'll have linked down below, he's going to submit the survey and talk to the FMCSA and push your concerns. You know, this is the time to get together. And I think this could be a major win if this goes through. But we need the voice of the truckers. So Mutha Truckers, let's get into today's video. Mutha Truckers, welcome to Mutha Truck News. Emails at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. I got my guy back on, Alex Lockie. You know, every time we jump on, I think it's great because the other day people were sending me articles. And when I see articles from Overdrive, I go, you know what? I would love to talk to someone over there instead of just kind of quoting the article. And so I did see this article by Matt Cole. And, you know, I was hoping that we could talk about this. I know, you texted me about this as well, and you thought it was very important for truck drivers. And I would say this, when it comes to owner operators, broker transparency is probably on the top of the list before anything, because that's the livelihood. And truck drivers, carriers right now, they feel like they're being wronged. They feel like, because there is a rule, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there is a rule that says that, hey, if the carrier wants to ask for the rate con, they can. But as soon as they feel like they do, there's some type of blacklisting that happens, right? And I mean, to tee up this, FMCSA is proposing something new that they think will kind of force hand the brokers to actually share this information more willingly. I mean, am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think so. So I think most people are familiar with 37.1.3, and that's the part of the Code of Federal Regulations that says, and has said since 1980, that carriers have a right to request the record of the transaction, which would include, there's a bunch of like different things that it includes, like including most importantly the rate that the shipper paid, and other little fees, the pickups and names and dates and all that important stuff. So that's always been your right as a carrier. But we know that that's not how life goes, right? Brokers don't want to, and that's evidenced by the fact that they often put in their contracts some language that you waive your right to request the transparency, or they just won't give it to you, or they face other issues. They'll say, oh well, if you come to my office at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, then maybe we'll ask if the guy is here and you can get it. So there's a lot of issues with actually exercising your right as a carrier. I'm telling you now, I can think of a single digit number of times when FMCSA has actually compelled a broker to disclose their rate to the carrier. And because of this, there's been petitions to FMCSA for a long time to enforce that regulation. It is a regulation on the book. Nobody disputes this. Even the brokers that are against it dispute that there is a regulation on the book, and truck drivers, carriers do have the right to review the transaction. But it's not playing out that way. So they've been positioned to strengthen it. What the petitioners wanted was to make it illegal for brokers to put that waiver in their contract, that you waive your right to the transparency. And FMCSA, in their most recent proposal of rulemaking, which is their long drawn out process for it, that they can't mess with the contract negotiations. They said that's kind of outside their thing. They can't forbid brokers from leaving that out. But what they want to do is change it from your right, because that wasn't enough for a carrier to just have a right. People's rights get trampled on all the time. It's not enough that it's your right as a carrier, because people's rights get trampled on all the time. What FMCSA is proposing with this new rule is that it is a regulatory obligation for brokers. So it's not just the carrier's right to request, it is your obligation to provide it. So I interpret that to mean I'm still talking to FMCSA and the petitioners about it, and even brokers, even TIA about it, that, I don't think you can waive that away in a contract clause. A carrier cannot say in a contract, oh, by the way, I'm not going to abide by the hours of service. Like nobody would ever even think about that, because that's a reg on the books. And truckers know if it's a reg on the books, it's almost 100% enforced, and I got to follow it or I'm ruined. Brokers since 1980s have had a reg on the book that they don't like, and they have managed to completely dodge it up until now if this rule gets made.
I hear you. So, looking at Matt Cole's article, and, I talked to the guys from OIDA, I talked to the guy at SBTC, and basically they don't always get along with what they talk about. But one thing that they do get along with is that pretty much it says here, right? What was it, that requiring that records be provided within 40 hours of request? I mean, I think that was a big one. And, so the four things, right? Requiring brokers to keep records in an electronic format, revising the required contents of brokers' records, requiring brokers to provide records upon request, and requiring that records to be provided within 48 hours of the request, right? And so are they feeling pretty much that the language on this is written in a type of way where now they have to show it, because it's in record, and if they don't keep records of this, there's got to be someone at FMCSA that's got to be up their butt saying, hey, you're not keeping a record of every load that you're doing like you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, so the brokers definitely are worried about the regulatory burden on this and having to keep and provide all those records. They are still, I mean, this came out yesterday morning, so everyone's lawyers are still reading it, coming up with the legal interpretations, and even when they put out a statement, this is ultimately stuff that would be decided by the courts. But FMCSA is a cautious organization. They don't put out a rule if they don't think they can enforce it and that it can actually come into, I mean, they don't have time to waste on, like, frivolous things that the broker is just going to sidestep the minute it comes out. So I think that broadly the carrier population is happy with it and wants it to stick, and broadly the broker population hates it and is looking for the way out. Like I said, with the contract clauses and the waivers, you know, I think a lot of them are just kind of looking at it like, well, when the law evolves, our little contract clauses will evolve around it to, once again sidestep enforcing this. But FMCSA in the notice has a whole section on costs and benefits, and everyone knows brokers are high tech. They work at the computer. They have these records. And the brokers I talk to are like, well, yeah, we have the records. And so it's like, okay, we'll send them over. And then they're like, well, that would be hard to do, and it'd be a lot of work. And, oh,
I wonder why the FMCSA, because they always kind of give themselves a way out because they said requiring that records be provided within 48 hours of request. What if why couldn't they just said, requiring that records be provided within 48 hours? So can you imagine every time there's a, you just book a load, okay, within 2 days, they gotta send you the Raycon, the actual. They gotta send you what that is. I wonder why they dance around that and they go, I mean, if a carrier wanted to request this, what carrier wouldn't want to request this? Is my question.
yeah, I could see a carrier putting like automatic contract language in there where, it's like you just have an email robot that just sends an email. But that's the other thing is, so it's upon request after the transaction is completed. I am still talking to legal counsel to find out if that means after the transaction is completed. Does that mean after the carrier is paid?
So you've already been paid, and then 2 days later, you find out that you got jerked around.
Yeah, you find out you got jerked around, but you do gain valuable business intelligence. I mean, let's not, like, why do carriers want broker transparency? It's not because they're like silly, weird people who want extra trivia about the load they hauled 6 weeks ago. They recognize that it's actionable business intelligence. Like, this will help them. Overdrive's done surveying about this. They think it's going to give them a leg up in price negotiations when they have real data like that. But it is going to be limited, right? If I have to wait till the payment term, I mean, potentially I'm looking at the shipper rate that paid, they basically sold 6 weeks ago. And now I have to try to, it is business intelligence. It isn't like, a slam dunk that, like, oh, 6 weeks ago the price was this, and now I'm pushing for the other. You know what I'm saying? So it is still going to be up to carriers on how to use this information wisely to improve things. But I will say this: the fact that brokers are pushing so hard against it, while also saying that, they're saying, oh, this means nothing. It's not going to change rates. It's not going to do you any good. It's like, okay, then hand it over. Drivers all the time, I hear all the time, we should strike, we should organize, we should get together on something, because 3 days without trucks and everybody will be begging us, and the rates, I've heard it 100 times. Everyone has. But it doesn't really happen. The trucker strikes, in my experience, have not panned out. I think this is something that they can really grab onto. Make it a standard practice to request that. Because I have already heard a broker say, listen, if a carrier requests my rate, that's the last time I'm ever dealing with them. Right? Like that, you're just going straight on the blacklist. Well, carriers can exist without brokers, but brokers can't exist without carriers. I think it's really stacked against the carrier. It has been for a long time. And, this regulation has a lot, or the rule they want to make has a lot of impact on a lot of areas that could really help the driver. I mean, would having all of these records and that record keeping requirement, it could potentially be good for fighting fraud. It would give carriers the information that has always been their right to
Right.
have. And if that makes pricing better for them, then fine. Some people say it won't, but basically that's your right as a carrier, and you are free to pursue that. And if it can help you make a better decision, then the law entitles you to it. And I don't see, basically, the brokers have a reg on the books that they don't like, and they don't have to abide by it, but you have to abide by it as the driver. They regulate your actual physical body, when you can drive, the measurements of your
Mhm.
body. They are taking out the calipers and measuring your human body. And then, other people don't even want to send some paperwork after the sale. I mean, I think there's a lot of humility that needs to happen. I say this as somebody who works online. I don't do anything. I open a laptop in the morning and then I'm at work, right? Online, you're just zooming around, trying to beat people up on price, trying, Googling stuff, trying to do your best. I think the people who work online really ought to humble themselves and come to terms with the fact that this stuff is hard work. People are putting themselves out there, and money doesn't buy happiness. All this stuff is a joke, man. Like, we live in a country with these people. They're people too. And it almost becomes like they're just two different, tribes, two different species. Is the way that they talk about carriers and what they deserve and what they should want. I mean, I would never in a million years tell a carrier what they should want or what their business is. If you drive a truck and you want something and you're entitled to it by law, where do they who would tell you no?
It's crazy too. I should run a survey on this, but like I would imagine we would know what the survey would look like. But how many freight brokers would become truck drivers?
Nobody. Look, nobody wants to do anything anymore. Nobody wants to actually work a job. They want to run a company that sends other people to do there. You want to open a restaurant and come up with the menu and, entertain guests. You don't want to go back there and cook and wash the dishes. Actual rolling up your sleeves, getting shit done is a vanishingly rare quality in America now. I mean, people want to buy houses and have Airbnbs and manage it all from their phone and everything like that. And we've gone about as far as we can in that online economy. And it's time for us to recognize that we stand on the shoulders of
Hmm.
giants, people who moved the freight and built the country. Listen, the mega brokers, the TIA, the mega carriers, all the big people in trucking who work in offices and wear suits, they're all going to comment. Okay? They are smart, good, hardworking people, but they work in an office. They're not a carrier. They don't have the valuable perspective that truck drivers do. So I think it makes a lot of sense to comment and look at this as kind of like a turn out the vote thing. Like, let your voice be heard on this, because the people that don't think you deserve it are vocal. Okay. And so this is one way where you can be vocal. And I will say, I hope that this talk can transition to Alex Mai listens to you. Mother Trucker listens to you and supports your voice. Overdrive does. Overdrive today will publish a survey We're going to try to get as many owner operators, as many drivers as we can to answer this. We're going to write up the survey, collecting hopefully thousands of carrier voices, distilling that into some neat ideas. I'm going to do my best to write it up clearly in a legible, presentable way that, you know, all the suits can digest it too. I do my best to go right down the middle with it. And we want your participation and your help. Help us to carry that voice, and hopefully that's something that I will certainly discuss with FMCSA. And if we have like good survey results like that, that goes a long way, right? Because they have to read through like thousands of comments. It probably would be beneficial to collect that all into one space. And I hope that you guys will join us on putting that together at
Hey, I
Overdrive.
appreciate it. No, thanks for being on the show, brother. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, this is something, if drivers are real about wanting to protest and shut down and make a change and would like some transparency, and if that's what you feel that you really want, then this could be a win-win as far as you don't have to block a road. You don't have to take food out of your kid's
Right.
mouth by going to some type of protest that it doesn't lead to making more money. This is just you taking 5 seconds of your time and making this. And
Right.
do you know who's the one that reads all this stuff out there, Alex? Because I want to contact that person
Yeah,
exactly and be like,
it's the most unlucky person on earth. I'll tell you that. That's all I know about him. I wouldn't want to have to read these comments, man. There's like thousands
oh
of
no,
them.
I know.